Namaskaram. Good morning. Jai Jai Shankara, Hara Hara Shankara. Welcome to the Global Festival of Oneness in its third year. We are truly honored and privileged to celebrate the life and works of Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya, starting on his Shankara Jayanti. Let me start with a short prayer. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Kesavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutam Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Narayana Samarambham Vyasa Shankara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. The Bharata civilization is very uniquely blessed with the heritage of Guru Sishya Parampara. And let us thank all the Gurus, starting from Vyasa, from Narayana to Vyasa to Adi Shankara, that Guru Parampara has kept our Sanatana Dharma alive and thriving for thousands and thousands of years. Today, we have the privilege to hear from one of those lineage Gurus, Sri L. Ramaswamy, who has devoted over 24 years to the study and research of Vedanta philosophy under the guidance of his Guru, Sri Swami Parthasarathi. This is the true Guru Sishya Parampara that everyone who hails from the Indian heritage, from the Sanatana Dharma lineage, should be so proud of. Sri L. Ramaswamy is stationed in Kolkata since 2002 and has engaged himself in full-time propagation of Vedanta through study classes on Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and practical Vedanta. Today, the topic of his presentation will be practical spirituality, Advaita Vedanta, and self-management. Sri L. Ramaswamy ji, please begin your presentation today and inspire us with your words of wisdom. Hari Om.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavadpada Shankaram Lokasankaram Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru-Parampara. On the auspicious occasion of Shankara Jayanti, we bow down in reverence to the entire Guru-Parampara and specifically to the universal teacher Sri Shankara Bhagavadpada, who is considered to be the greatest being who have walked on this Bharata Varsha in human form in Kali Yuga. The topic for the day is practical spirituality. As we all know, Vedanta generally refers to Upanishads. Vedanta is derived from the term Veda plus Anta, which is the end portion of the Upanishads, which is the end portion of Vedas, which is the Upanishads. The culmination of all knowledge, the aim of which is to reveal the Atma or the Self, the highest thought ever known to mankind, we can find only in Upanishads. Now the question is, who are the Adhikaris? Who are the rightful qualified students who are supposed to study the Upanishads? In general, we find the answers in Upanishads themselves. For example, in Mundaka Upanishad, it says, Parikshalokan karmachitan brahmano. A person who has investigated the world, who has finished his karma, who is an inquirer. So we see that generally it tends to men of renunciation. When we talk about the word renunciation here, a person who has this mental abstraction, who has risen above the world, he has that aim to seek the transcendental, and on a consistent basis his pursuit is there. With that fire for liberation, it is there. They become the real qualified students for learning Upanishads. It is not that others cannot learn or may not learn. It is open for all. That way it is ours is a very liberal way of education is there. But a person who is able to have that mental abstraction and prepare himself for learning Upanishads, to him Upanishads will gel more. They will reveal themselves more. It is not one more subject that they are learning here. Here they are learning about the real essence of their own selves, which is the Atma. Now the next question arises as to, if that is the case, how many of us really qualify for that? That means, is the Upanishad teachings and the Vedanta, are they to be kept out of reach for majority of us? That may sort of deflate or not provide that much enthusiasm for us to approach this subject. But thankfully, answer to this comes in the form of the great text Bhagavad Gita. Because whenever we talk about Vedanta, the authoritative texts are the Prasthanatraya, are the three canonical texts on which Vedanta rests. There are innumerable texts, but these three are taken as very authoritative and authentic because the great masters have taken this to be like that and commented on this. The Brahma Sutra, the Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita definitely forms part of the core text of Vedanta. And in the Gita Dhyanam, it also says that Sarvo Upanishado Gavo Dugdha Gopalanandanaha. So that means the Upanishads are the cow and the milker is Lord Krishna, who has given this nectarine philosophy in the form of Bhagavad Gita. That means what? Essence of Upanishads is Bhagavad Gita. So the core philosophy that is given there, the tattva that is given there in Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita is one and the same. But why are we able to relate to Bhagavad Gita much easier than the Upanishads? It is because Bhagavad Gita is toned down and presented to an Adhikari who is symbolized by Arjuna, who probably represents all of us. Krishna is the Guru, Arjuna is the disciple in Bhagavad Gita, all of us know that. Arjuna is a man of action. He was a Kshatriya. He was a very great prince and who had prepared for the battle. On the eve of the battle, at the very 0 hour of the battle, somehow he went into an emotional stupor and then he collapsed. He was physically shattered, mentally wrecked, paralyzed intellectually. At that time, fortunately, he surrendered to Lord Krishna, and Krishna gave out the chaste knowledge in the form of Bhagavad Gita. So, the knowledge that is contained in the Upanishads, without compromising its core, it is now given for an Adhikari who is not probably as, let's say, inspiring or as great as a Upanishadic student. When we see Ashwalana or Nachiketas, the famous student of Kathopanishad, we feel very inspired. Even as a young boy, he went there, but his level of mumukshatva, his level of wanting to know the self, that's all very inspiring. So he was a person, the Upanishadic student is a person who is really wanting to know what is the self, and he is pushing himself to know the truth there. Bhagavad Gita is given here because of the circumstance, and the circumstance is that a great noble soul, no doubt Arjuna is a noble soul, but you cannot say that he had the same level of intensity or mumukshatva as an Upanishadic student. Yet the situation demanded that when he collapsed, he needed to be revived. And when he needed to be revived, the same philosophy of Upanishads was given by Krishna, but tailor-made to the Adhikari who is Arjuna here. So that means there is a very great precedent in Bhagavad Gita for us to understand that the knowledge of the Upanishad can be toned down and given to an Adhikari at his level. Gita is a text that elaborately contains all the known spiritual paths, and it explains Atma also in a different ways. All those things are there. But essentially, Bhagavad Gita also is giving us the Karma Yoga. If you want an authoritative text on Karma Yoga, we can take definitely Bhagavad Gita as to be the manual. So Arjuna is a man of action. He has stopped action. To revive him back into action, Bhagavad Gita is given. What is interesting for us to note in the modern context is, when you approach very many people that, let's say you have a class on Bhagavad Gita, or we need to learn Bhagavad Gita, they do have respect, they do have reverence, but the common refrain is that all this we can see after retirement. Because right now I am having my preoccupations in the world. I have my family to take care, I have to earn, I have to go to office, I have to do various other samsaric activities. In this, I may not be able to provide that much time, and I will not be able to provide that much energy into learning this. So always after retirement, what am I going to do? Let me study Bhagavad Gita. This can be a common refrain. But Bhagavad Gita is not a post-retirement pastime. The very picture or the background that Vyasa projects for Bhagavad Gita is interesting, that it is the 0 hour of the battle. Arjuna, who wants to run away from action, is brought back into action by the philosophy of Gita. I repeat, Arjuna wants to renounce and go away. He doesn't want to fight. But Krishna brings him back into action, and that too a very so-called terrible action. He has to do that action, okay, by the philosophy of Gita. And people are saying, that means what? Gita is telling us how to act. Gita is practically telling us what is the steps that you need to take while you are functioning in the world. Since the Adhikari was Arjuna, who was a warrior, he was directly asked to fight. Suppose if somebody else was the Adhikari, he has to do the activities of the world in that same fighting spirit. Challenges will be thrown at you, but you have to take it up with that fighting spirit, for which the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is there. So Gita essentially teaches us how to act, and yet people want to learn it after they have finished action. If you want to learn Bhagavad Gita after you have finished your action, which is retirement, it serves no purpose. Anyway, it will help anybody at any stage, but you have wasted. You have wasted a precious source which you could have used in your life. What is the use of having completed all the journey and then trying to find out what is the right way to take my journey? So this is it's a myth to say that spirituality or Gita, these philosophies for post-retirement. It is no. It is to be applied in our day-to-day life. So for practical Vedanta, for practical spirituality, Bhagavad Gita itself has given us a head start. It has given a license for us to understand that the philosophy contained in Upanishads can be understood and applied by us in a day-to-day lives. Does that mean that the qualification of Upanishads of being a renunciate is compromised? No. Renunciation is not merely a person who has taken up sannyas. It is the inner abstraction or the spirit of renunciation that is required. The same Adi Shankara Bhagavadpada in Bhajagovindam, he says, Jatilo Mundi Lunchita Keshaha Kashayambara Bahukruta Vesha. So some people shave their head, some people pull their hair one by one, and then they put on the ochre robes for various Vesha they do, various type of, like show that they put on for what? Udara Nimittam, for the sake of belly. Once you put on this dress and then you are given bhiksha and your body transaction is taken care of, for which they are using the sannyasa ashrama, he condemns them. So obviously, it is not referring to a person who has just taken up sannyasa from a worldly point of view. There are very many grihasthas also who are not wearing maybe ochre robes, they are still wearing white dress or some other dress only as householders. But their sense of inner abstraction is much more than 1,000 sannyasis also. We have seen life of such people. So that means what is the essence of renunciation is not renunciation of action, but renunciation in action. I repeat, the beauty and grandeur of human endeavor is not practicing renunciation of action, but practicing renunciation in action. For those who want a reference, it's very clear in Bhagavad Gita also, chapter 18, verses 9 and 23 you take. Verbatim the same. Verbatim means almost the same definition is given. One is given for sattvic renunciation, another is given for sattvic action. It's very interesting. Chapter 18, verses 9 and 23. So what it means is sattvic action is sattvic renunciation. When you are doing the action, if you practice renunciation, then you are actually practicing spirituality, because renunciation is the backbone of Vedanta. Now, what is this renunciation? It is a word that is usually dreaded. Let us look at it from action point of view. Every action is done in the present. An action is propelled by a desire which comes from the past. Every action gives a fruit which belongs to the future. Let us say a person does business, that is his action. He has a lot of tendencies, vasanas and other push that he has gathered from the past, which is pushing him into this business action. And the profit and other things that comes out of the business is the fruit of the action. What we are doing now is talking something here, that is an action. It may be propelled by a strong desire to convey this knowledge or whatever, that desire that is coming out, that is the push from the past. And the fruit of this action, it could be that the fruit is that I get followers, or I get name, or I get fame, or I get money, or I get curses, whatever it is. All these are the fruits that are coming out of the action. Now, when a person is doing the action in the present, the mind automatically tends to go into the future fruit. When the mind is going into the future fruit, his action in the present is hampered because he is not able to have full concentration in the action. Therefore, by having one eye on the fruit of the action, you are not able to achieve the same fruit of action. As a person is involved in doing business, his constant mind is going towards what is the profit, how much am I going to earn. If he is constantly being pressurized by this, he will not be able to execute the business decisions properly. It is going to affect the very fruit that he aims for. So, if we are able to cut out the first, to start with the future fruit, and then if you are able to disassociate yourself from the past desires, which is a tougher thing and which comes a little later, and plunge in the present action, even while doing in the present action, if you are able to take away the Kartrutva Bhavana or the egoistic notion that I am doing this action, so you are renouncing the appendages to action while performing action. So while I am doing the action in the present, I am taking away the past desires, I am taking away the future fruit, I am trying to renounce the present ego that I am saying that I am doing this action. If I'm able to then completely involve myself into that action, that way it becomes a spiritual action. In Gita itself, Krishna says, Yat Sankhya Prapyate Sthanam Tat Yogaira Vikamyate Ekamapyastita Samyak Ubhayor Vindate Phalam. That fruit which the Sankhyans get, the Karma Yogis also get. All that you need to do is get established in one. You will get the fruit of both, he says. So, Jnana Yoga says, it's quite direct, it's quite fastest, but it's very tough to say that I am not this body, I am the self, to do that vichara, to negate the unreal and to assert the real. It's very, very tough. You need to have a high level of mokshatva and a high level of drida vairagya to do it. But for us, Gita says you can get the same effect to say that, don't say that I am not the body, I am the self. That is too tough. It will be only a mechanical repetition if you do it now. But why don't you, okay, I have a lot of desires. I'm still doing the actions. I want to do business, or I want to be in politics, I want to be in sports, or I want to be in this field also. Fine. If you are having that vasanas and if you are quite having that pravritti in you to do, go all out and do it. But when you do it, if you are able to first disassociate yourself from the fruit of the action, whatever fruit occurs, say that is not for me, that is the starting point of spirituality. In fact, this karma phala tyaga, this is called renunciation of fruit of action. It is hailed above meditation also in 12th chapter. Jhanat karma phala tyaga, he says. It's very, very interesting. So, the point is that I'm able to get the same effect of the jnanis who by extreme jnana yoga, they are also able to get. If I'm able to get it through karma yoga also, my God, it is the Lord's compassion that it has been brought down to our level. It is practical Vedanta. That I'm able to disassociate myself from the fruit of action and I'm able to plunge in the present action is in fact practical spirituality only. It is practical Vedanta only. We are practicing Vedanta, but it is comfortable at our level. Why? Still we have a lot of desires, still we have to go out into the world, still we have to work in the world. Gita recognizes this. Gita recognizes this and gives us the permission. Now, there are 4 Purusharthas in life, as you all know. Purusharthas mean purposes of life. Why do you live the life for? It is generally called in Sanskrit as Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Dharma, we'll come to that. Artha is wealth. Wealth refers to the normal wealth, but you can also take other intangible wealth like name, fame, power, position, whatever you want to earn, acquire. So I live my life only for this acquisition. Kama is enjoyment. Whatever I have acquired, I want to enjoy. Life is meant for enjoyment. A person who is able to just focus on 2 and 3, which is what most of the world is now indulging in, that is, acquisition and enjoyment become the 2 main motivating factors of life. Such people sooner or later find their life boring, monotonous. They don't find real fulfillment. So Vedanta says, moksha or liberation is transcendental. Very, very few can really aim for moksha and work on it on a continual basis, consistent basis. Other 3 are worldly, terrestrial. 1, 2, 3 are terrestrial. 4th is transcendental. But in the worldly thing, if you are going to pursue artha and kama bereft of dharma, if you don't keep dharma as the base, and you are going to pursue merely wealth and enjoyment, sooner or later you will get into a monotony, boredom. You will not find fulfillment. There is no end to acquisition, there is no end to enjoyment, but in the same time you will lose all interest in life. Aur kya? This sort of questions will come. And with all the achievements, so-called worldly achievements, you still feel a sense of void. So Veda Vyasa advises at the end of Mahabharata, he says, keep dharma as the base. Lead a life based on dharma. Out of dharma, you are going to get wealth. So wealth is not denied to you. Legitimate wealth will come to you. And legitimate enjoyments are also there for you in life. You can go through those enjoyments. but lead a life based on dharma, only then later you may be even interested or enthused to look beyond the world, which is for moksha. So dharma forms the basis of all pursuits. What is this dharma? Dharma, as a Sanskrit word, has no equivalent translation in any other language. Maybe in Tamil you have the word aram, which is dharma only. But in English, there are various terms that you can use in various contextual meanings. Dharma is righteousness. Dharma is religion. Dharma is charity. Dharma is spiritual path. Dharma is the nature. Like that, various contextual meanings are there. We are asked to walk in the path of dharma. Values. Values is also dharma. All other creatures, for them, the life is computerized or an inbuilt mechanism is there where they just follow their dharma. And therefore, there is no question of regret or sin or any such notion for animals. A tiger has to kill and eat, that is its dharma, and it will never deviate away from that. It will not kill for fun. Whenever it is hungry, it will kill. That is how it is designed. And therefore, a tiger doesn't ever regret, why am I killing? The cow has to lead a cow's life, and it is also computerized. It cannot live a life apart from that. That way, every creature's life is set in motion, well determined. For a human being, choice is given. You can be as cruel as a carnivore or as meek and mild as a herbivore. You can be a zebra or a cobra also. So it all depends on the choices that you make. So what really is then is the dharma of a human being. That is where we need to learn. We need to educate ourselves using dharma shastras and other things as to how is it that I have to live my life. So in context of certain values, let us see. If you are a human being, you need to have certain characteristics. Certain conduct you must have, acharan, certain things. Okay. Speaking the truth is a dharmic value. Maintaining time is a value. Punctuality. Respecting elders is a value. Practicing ahimsa. See, dharma is that I expect you to behave to me in some way, in certain way, that in that same way, I am also expected to behave to you. If I expect you not to hurt me, I must not hurt others also. This is a way that in which we can understand dharma. If I expect you to speak truth to me, I must speak truth to you. This is dharma. So certain values are taken as dharma. We are taught right from childhood. Fine. All of us will agree on this. Not wasting food is a dharma. Any resources for that matter. Maintaining self-control. Speaking truth. All these are certain, many values like this are there under. We can understand that also under dharma. Fine. But if you go into the analysis of why I should speak truth, taking a position of devil's advocate, and I'm asking this question to you, why I should speak truth? Why I should respect elders? Why I should practice non-injury or ahimsa? Why I should maintain time, punctuality? If you assume that your child asks you this question, we tell our children, speak truth, respect people, all these things we say. At a very young age, they may not, even at a young age, actually they question. You must encourage that question. Sometimes we say, shut up and just follow. They will follow, but after a while, if that quench of the thirst is not there in terms of trying to understand as to why, they may not be enthused to follow it throughout. When they have a different perspective to it, they will switch. They may tell lie also, or they may practice some other himsa also, because that is what appeals to them at that point of time. If this has to appeal to them, you have to give a strong logic and reason by which their intellect is grounded in this. So if you ask this question to yourself, or anybody asks you this question also, Not for the sake of scholastic education, we are saying, how will you try to answer that question? Do you have that answer? Why must I speak truth? Why must I not injure others? Why must I maintain time? Why must I maintain cleanliness? These are all values. Why not everything, let it be dirty all over the desk here, let all the computer files be dirty. After all, spiritual path is that my mind must go to God. Why are you insisting on cleanliness? Shaucham. These are all given even in the Yama and Niyama, in the Ashtanga Yoga, these are all given. Non-covetous attitude. Why should I not steal from others? I want money. I want to take care of my needs. Why not I take from others? Why should I not steal? If you go into any of these questions like this and try to answer as to why, for example, let us take cleanliness. Ultimately, what I am looking for in life, forget about God, Brahman, I am looking for peace in life. And what is disturbing my peace is all my agitations inside in the form of worry, anxiety, and other forms of my modifications of desires like anger and jealousy, various things which when they are agitating, I'm not able to find that peace. Right. If I am not able to find peace internally because of these agitations, I must be aware that I'm having this dirt inside. Most people who are angry, they are not even aware that they are angry. Only if I am having an awareness that I'm short-tempered person, or if I am angry person, can I work on my anger? If I'm shouting, I say, when am I angry? Suppose if I shout like this, you can't say that, sir, you are angry now, because I'm not even in a position to listen to you. My awareness is not there. So for me to gain that awareness, first, I must be able to look inward and identify my dirt. If I am not able to identify the dirt which is outside, which is gross, how am I going to find out the subtle dirts within me which is inside? And if I am not able to cleanse off this dirt, how am I going to find that pure Brahman within, which is another name for that absolute peace? So each and every question, when you analyze like this, it ultimately leads you to that final answer where you are wanting to really find that peace or the self or Atma within, for which all these values you need to practice. So like this, we may not have time now, like this you can go into every question and try to understand. It will lead you to that final goal of life, which is self-realization or God realization. So Dharma forms the base. If you go deeper into Dharma, that itself is going to lead you to moksha. That is the point. So catch hold of Dharma. Leading a dharmic life is again practical spirituality. Once we lead the life in the course of Dharma, we will enjoy the world and we will try to go beyond the world also. Now, keeping this as the base only, great masters like Swami Vivekananda, Swami Ramatirtha, a host of other great masters, modern masters also, Swami Chinmayananda and our Guru Swami Parthasarathi, without compromising the core principle of Vedanta, they have brought in the Vedanta to our level, which is called as practical Vedanta or practical spirituality. I would say one of the greatest contributions of our Swamiji is this, because he comes from a corporate background. So he knows that there are seminars that are applicable for corporate, for students and everywhere, like you can talk about stress management, time management and value systems and how to deal with corruption, leadership, various issues are there. All this has to come from the root core, which is self-management. In other words, I cannot manage anything external to me if I am not able to manage myself. I cannot effectively manage anything external to me if I cannot manage myself. So self-management becomes the core. What is the self-management? There are three components of management. One is the manager, second is the managed, third is the management, the function. A, B, C. A is the individual, B is what you manage, C is the function where A and B come together to form the function C. All over the world, the emphasis is on B and C. In other words, What you manage, be it material, be it money, be it finance, be it machinery, be it production, be it marketing, whatever it is, all that is constantly being improved. And the management function is also being improved in the sense the technical knowledge that you require for handling that particular technical aspect, that is being taken care of. Say, suppose recently, few years back, GST was there. If you do not know the provisions of GST, you can call a person who is an expert in GST and ask him to give a seminar by which the management of taxes in your company you can improve. So the management function is being improved. The resource, finance, technology, all that is being improved. But what is neglected, and what is neglected to a point of fault, is the manager. You are taught in all the Ivy League management colleges and everywhere. You are taught to manage finance, production, marketing, various things. But the question is, who manages the manager? This is the question. Are we taught to manage ourselves? In 2008, there was a great crash in America. We all knew that. And great companies like Lehman Brothers and very many companies closed down. Think about it, that all these companies are run by graduates from Ivy League management schools, Harvard and Stanford and whatnot. And all these colleges have produced great products, and these are the products who have been managing these companies. So if you do a post-mortem, then it must naturally occur as to if such people who are taught how to manage these companies, despite being taught everything and they being the brightest of the students, how did it all collapse then? Okay, they came up with something known as greed, they were saying. You have found out something. Okay, greed is the factor. That means despite all the management lessons that you got, you did not know how to control the greed then. If that aspect was not taught you, or that is not controlled within you, how best can you manage however great people are given to you, or resources are given to you, finance is given to you, computer and other technology is given to you? The crash is bound to happen. So the question arises as to who manages the manager. We may not have time to go into the next chart, which is about the life in general, but let us dive straight into the next topic, which is self-management. The question arises, who is the manager? Who is this individual? The moment you ask this question to anybody, the answer they come up with is, I am so and so. They may give a visiting card to you. That visiting card holds a name and probably the job that you are doing, the qualification or the job that you are doing. That is saying something about you. But who are you in essence? Your education qualification is that. But the question arises, in principle, who are you? The same question which Advaita Vedanta asks us to ask in the very core as to who am I? This question you ask at a very base level. Who is this manager? Okay, manager is one role that you play, but who is this individual? So we come to this conclusion that the name that represents you is essentially referring to your body. That is your immediate identity. But that immediate body is not a dead body, it has something inside. And what is inside is classified here as mind and intellect. This we can say is one of the greatest contributions of our Swamiji, Swami Chinmayananda or Swamiji in that parampara I am saying, to just bring down the highest tenets of Vedantic philosophy to the level that we are and say, start with the fundamentals of education, that you have to proceed from the known to the unknown. If I ask you who you are going to give me the identity of your body, plus inside there are some thoughts and feelings that you have, which I can collectively call as the inner personality. But is this what you really are? Is there something more to you? Then ultimately we know that Vedanta gives the answer that you are the Atma, which is the real personality. which is the self, which is beyond all matter. This is the highest thought of the Upanishads. But before even one could get into that, I want at the basic level to understand how am I to contact the world, how am I to relate with the world, how am I to get success in the world. All these are the practical questions that I say, and these masters are saying Vedanta gives answer for that also. If you are able to have a firm control over your personality to a great extent, achievement of even worldly goals become easier. It is as easy to be great as to be small. Famous quote of Swami Ramatirtha. Here is a gold mine, here is a coal mine. Your effort is the same. If you dig this side, you get coal. If you dig this side, you get gold. Where are you putting in the effort? Bhagavad Gita says, Uddharet Atmanatmana. Raise yourself by yourself. Uddharet Atmanatmana. Fine. What is it that by which I can raise myself? This is where practical spirituality gives the answer. The answer lies that you have got this wonderful equipment called as the intellect, which is unique to you. It is not given for animals. It is not given for anybody else because they don't require. They don't have a choice. You have a choice. We have a choice. The humans have a choice. So, our study need not be of the Atma directly. For majority of us, the study of the mind and intellect itself is very revealing. And these are all again direct statements given in Gita also. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha gurunandana bahushaka hi anantascha buddhayo abhyavasayinam. A focused person he has a vyavasayatmika buddhi, intellect which is single pointed. Many branched is the abhyavasayi, a person who is not focused in life. Therefore, in fact, if you want to achieve things in life also, you must be focused. You must be controlled. It is all very easy to say these words: focus, control, concentrate, meditate, all these. But the point is, with what do we focus? What do we focus and with what do we focus? The whole problem is now boiling down to how do we achieve this self-management within ourselves. Let's say the body does the action. The bodily actions can be prompted by the emotions or by your thoughts. The emotions are your feelings, your impulses, your indecisive state of mind. You can call them likes, dislikes. These are all part and parcel of all of us. In fact, emotions animals also have. Okay. So that is quite common, and we don't need any education to feel this emotion because emotions are natural. You must have emotions, definitely. If you don't have emotions, we are like plants, stones. We must have emotions. But the problem comes only when you act upon the emotions without the intervention of your thinking. That's why human being is standing straight like this. Animals are like this. Head and heart are in the same line. None need to be, overpowering the other. Human being, the nature has kept like this. Head is above the heart to give us a lesson that your head must rule the heart. Heart is important, but while taking decisions, while chartering the course of life, at all points of time, your decisions cannot be based on your emotions. It has to be well thought out. So your emotions need not be curbed, they need to be channelized. And who can channelize? It is only your intellect. So Uddharet Atmanatmanam, raise yourself by yourself means using the power of your own intellect, raise your individuality to that level so that you can use your emotions properly in the world. This is practical spirituality. This is self-management. So intellect is that faculty which acts based on reason, which is based on analysis, discrimination. Something in you says, this is black and this is white. This is dharma and this is adharma. This is what I should do. This is what I should not do. Take a simple example. You offer a sweet to a diabetic patient. Something in him says, take the sweet. That is his mind because he likes sweets. But his own intellect says, don't take sweets because it's not good for your health. Based on some reason it says. But if the intellect is not developed, even if feebly it says, the mind will go and grab the sweet and you are going to suffer later on. So development of intellect is the key for self-management. If the mind is likened to a river, the banks of the river will give the direction to the river. If I ask you, is river a boon or bane for the society? It is a boon. River gives us drinking water. It gives space for navigating your boats. Those who eat fish, it gives fish. A hydroelectric power you can take. Irrigation you can do for the fields. In each and every way, river is useful. That is why civilizations are found on the banks of the river. But if the same river is flooded, it can cause disease, it can cause destruction, it can kill lives, it can take away cattle, everything it will do. What is the difference between this river and that river? If the banks of the river is strong and if the flow of the river is high also, it will be contained within the banks. If the banks turn right, the river turns right. If the bank turns left, the river turns left. Such a river is so useful. But if the bank is weak, the river inundates and it kills people. So river is your emotion. Banks is your intellect. You have to strengthen the banks. You have to strengthen the intellect. And this intellect strengthening is the key for self-management. Intellect is not intelligence. Intelligence all of us have. Animals also have. Intelligence is by which you can earn a living. Somebody is intelligent in marketing. Somebody is intelligent in science. Somebody is intelligent in maths. That is different. Intellect is the capacity to control your mind. Intellect is the capacity to use your intelligence at the right point of time. That only you can develop. You can take the help of Guru, you can take the help of the Shastras, but with which you have to develop this intellect. So self-management is essentially intellect controlling the mind. This is practical spirituality. I'll just conclude by saying how it is connected to Advaita Vedanta. If we want to develop the intellect, what is the way? The way is to think originally. Original thinking is the key to develop intellect. Do not take things for granted. Right from childhood, a child must be encouraged to ask questions. However blasphemous you think it is, still if the child asks, encourage. You also ask questions. You develop muscles by exercising the muscles. Similarly, you develop intellect by exercising your intellect. Do not take things for granted. Ask as to why. And the Shastra's knowledge given in Bhagavad Gita and other texts of Vedanta, when you learn it under a proper guru, what happens is that it gives material for you to think about. When we say original thinking, it is not that you go to Himalayas or go to some Ganga banks and sit there in meditation and I want to think something very original which nobody has thought of till now. It doesn't work like that. The Sanatana Dharma or the principles of life are thought of and revealed to us by the Rishis. It is all there. That is what is the text containing the Upanishads that they are saying. Applying your thought originally on that expands your intellect. So it is like this when I said earlier that you need to ask questions as to why I should speak truth, or why I should respect the elders, or why I should do puja to the God, why I should believe in God. All these questions when you ask, and the answers that are given in Vedanta, given in the scriptures, you need to apply yourself on it originally and think about it. You are actually expanding the intellect. Now, where does the uniqueness of Advaita Vedanta come? Here, it is very experimental. It says ultimately the state of self-realization or God realization is achievable here and now. It's not a priori belief for you to believe in a particular God. In terms of time and space, it is beyond us. Maybe after many janmas, in some place called Vaikuntha, in some form, in some location, we do not know. All that, and we are not disputing the authenticity of those statements, but it is set on your priori belief. You have to have full faith in it. Shastras reveal that. But as a scientific minded person, if you want to ask, it goes one step ahead, and the Advaita Vedanta says that which you are seeking is the real self within you, which is experienceable here and now. If you are able to connect to that, we are able to develop our intellect. By developing the intellect and controlling the mind, we will be able to achieve self-management. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, Guru Ramaswamy ji. Excellent insights. you talked about leading a life based on dharma, which is really an excellent takeaway from what you said today. And you also mentioned something about how animals are naturally programmed to live by their dharma, whereas humans, because we have a choice, we tend to always go in the wrong direction. And how managing the intellect to and the analogy you gave, the intellect is the banks and the emotions and the mind is the river. So if you have a weak bank, the same emotions can overwhelm you. In fact, overwhelm means flooded. But whereas if you elevate the banks with the right mentor, which is what Arjuna did, right? At that point in time, Arjuna's banks, like in your analogy, were low, and Krishna helped to elevate that bank. So excellent summary. I always encourage young people to not disassociate Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita to a post-retirement activity. And you also said renunciation in action and not renunciation of action. Beautifully said. So we are looking at a few questions. So anyone who has questions, please post them in the webinar. But I have a question. The moment somebody hears the word dharma, especially the young generation, and I live in California, and a lot of people think the moment they hear the word dharma, it is Indian, it is Hindu, I don't want to associate with it. So what is your advice to young people? It's almost like when you said live with dharma, we don't tell people to breathe clean air, because air is there. We don't have to explicitly say breathe clean air. It's breathe, right? So how do you advise young people especially to not link dharma to Hinduism but a way of life?
See, the problem comes when we are trying to because even now our talk was in English, and most of the places everywhere we see English as a language of communication. Nothing per se wrong with it, but see, language conveys a thought, and that which is associated with a way of life. Okay. For example, in traditional Orthodox Hindu families, even now many families may practice across all caste and community also something called as this. In Hindi they say Jota, or in Sanskrit they say Uchishtam, or Echil they say in Tamil, which is you should not touch your tongue, and with the same hand you should not touch the cooking vessel or something like that. You understand that, right? It is a practice that they have when they eat food also. Fine. Now, this Juta you must not do. How will you say that in English? You cannot say. Okay. It is a limitation of that language, because this is not only about a particular word that is available in a particular language. It is about the way of life of those people who are practicing that. Right? Right. So therefore, if you want to convey dharma, you have to stick to dharma only. Of course, you can try and bring it as close as possible using other words in other languages according to the context. But let us not say, for example, this is what I think even you in your channel also, I've seen Rajiv Malhotra and other great authors, they are saying certain non-translatables in Sanskrit must be used it as it is. Suppose if I'm going to say yajna as a sacrifice, and if the Christian notion of sacrifice has a particular connotation, he will try to correlate yajna with what he understands as sacrifice, right? Instead, I want to convey yajna as yajna means let me use the word yajna. Exactly like that. For youngsters also, we can say, let us use the word dharma. You try to understand what dharma is. In that process, I would say, try to follow these principles which are part and parcel of living dharma. Then you will probably understand the concept of dharma itself. So the concept of dharma or rina or rita and all these things, let us stick to these. In other words, let us Sanskritize English and bring in these words into the English language itself. And then it is I would say I would blame the parents who are like, who would say that, I'm spiritual and not religious and other things. They have disassociated from themselves, and that has passed on to the next generation. So they have to be brought into the fold by introducing the right language and the right acharan only for that also. Yeah.
Fantastic. Actually, you have made a very strong argument for everyone listening today and the recording in the future to learn Sanskritam, because Sanskritam is a representation of a way of life of a Sanatana Dharma. And if you listen to a Sanskritam word in English, which comes from a different way of life, I think beautiful. So please, everyone listening to this, learn Sanskritam and teach your children Sanskritam. There are so many opportunities today, and that is the best way to connect to your roots. Ramaswamy ji, we have another question. How do you explain to people who say this? You're asking to have faith in the teachings, but you're also telling us to ask questions, which you cannot answer when I ask. So I get our approach, but if people ask questions, I don't have answers. So please suggest any other helpful ways to address this. Is how do I explain to others who question like this?
Okay. So the thing is, the question says, how do you explain to people who say this? You are asking to have faith, correct? In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, in only one verse, it comes as, how do you gain this knowledge through the teacher? In that he says, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena seveya. So you need to prostrate, that means aspect of surrender and faith is there. But he also says pariprashnena. So the moment I want knowledge, I am seeking knowledge, I must humble myself. I must first have that awareness that I don't know. I seek a source of knowledge who I believe is superior to me, and to him I surrender in full. Okay. Even as I surrender, I do not leave the existing capacity of me, which is to question, but I do not question with the attitude of, hey, how do you say this? I don't agree with this. No. If I am a patient, I have to go to doctor because I am having the disease. Okay. Having chosen the doctor, I cannot tell the doctor, you prescribe these medicines to me. That means you yourself know why are you coming here in the first place, right? So therefore, there is an attitude of surrender before learning. That is what is the first step. But when the master is saying something, if you are not able to genuinely understand, you put in the effort to understand. Where you are not able to understand, you are supposed to ask him. And then he says, if you are asking, that master is obliged to answer you. He is obliged to answer you. If he is not also at that point of time, he will find out the various resources or something, sources from which he is able to. But what is important here is that before asking a question, you must have quest. Quest means really wanting to know, not for the sake of asking question, not to test the master, not to have that arrogance that I can ask this question. But according to the law of demand and supply, when you have a genuine question, the answer will come either from this source or some other source, the answer is going to come. But you must have this dual approach of having that surrender attitude at the mind and the questioning attitude at the intellect if you want to gain knowledge.
Fantastic. And in fact, you have highlighted the word pariprashna, which is beautiful because there is no English word for that. Prashna is question, but Krishna very clearly says pariprashna means ask with humility, ask not to challenge the guru, ask to know. So that's why the pariprashna is such a wonderful word. There could be a whole discourse on that. Just to expand on that, right? A lot of children, I mean, I'm in California and a lot of children, I keep asking, right? I ask them, next time when you order pizza, before you open the box and start eating, ask all the questions. Who made it? Who are all the people who touched it? What is the degree of the person who made it? Same thing when you fly to India, go and ask the pilot, how many hours have you flown? Are you sober? Where did you get your degree? And then you go back to your seat and sleep. Now, children and young people and parents, when your children ask questions, ask them to ask these questions also. When they start to blow the candle on a cake, ask them why. Why don't they ask then? So asking questions is great, but it starts with a deep respect and faith for where you come from. You have faith in the Swiggy person who brings the pizza. You have faith in the pilot who is flying, and that's why you're able to sleep in peace. Asking questions randomly becomes prashna, not pariprashna. Encourage your children to ask. Pariprashna means I genuinely want to know. I genuinely want to know. Ramaswamy ji, excellent question. After you beautifully talked about the connection between English and why it cannot represent the way of life from where the Sanskritam language has evolved, you have made a beautiful case for everybody to learn Sanskritam. They want to know, are there any good YouTube channels to learn Sanskritam, especially older people who may not go to a regular class? And some of the audience, we have put a link, samskritSambhashan.com. Are there any other resources, Ramaswamy ji, that come to mind to learn Sanskrit today?
Just to add, Advaita Academy has more than 1,000 videos teaching Sanskritam. You can just check our YouTube channel. It has been taught by 2 different teachers. So please do check. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitinji. Everyone in the world, Sanskritam should be spoken in every house. And, Chamu Krishna Swami has been talking about this, how Sanskritam should be brought back in its full glory, because that is what connects to our way of life. Ramaswamy ji, any final words? You said something at the end, which is beautiful. Advaita Vedanta is about achieving that realization here and now, not go somewhere else. The
Right.
God is not sitting in one place where you drive there and go.
Right.
So, any words of wisdom on achieving here and now?
So ultimately, that the great masters say that this is the only sort of business of our life. We are given human birth to ultimately find out who we are, and all our activities that we do, maybe it is not prohibited for us. In fact, all dharmic pursuits are encouraged for us. But all our pursuits gain meaning, be it learning Sanskrit, be it music, or be it doing your business, or running for glory, or whatever you want to do in life. We need to ask this basic question as to why am I doing this and what am I doing this for? And if I'm able to connect it to this main goal of achieving the self-realization or God realization, our life gains a purpose, I would say. So the starting point, there are going to be, we will reach great masters and learn the higher and finer, subtler points of Vedanta also, and all those things we are going to learn as we go along. But to start with, I would say, as I mentioned, our Swamiji, who is a living legend at 95 and continues to preach Vedanta, he has authored books like The Fall of the Human Intellect and Governing Business and Relationships. All these are preliminary books, I would say, to begin with, and then go to the level of Vedanta treatise, Bhajagovindam, Prakarana Granthas, and Gita and Upanishads. So as a collection, he has started from the very basics, even select English poems, finding Vedanta even in the poems that we study in school, daffodils and other poems. Starting from that point till the point of Upanishads, it is step by step given. So a good point for all of us to get introduced at the level that I need to know, I have a faculty for called intellect, that I need to improve it and strengthen it by my own self. And the resource materials for that is given in those books. So my recommendation is that we can start with those fundamental books to start with, and then by Guru's grace, we will reach up to the highest level of realization also. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm so glad you remembered your Guru, Sri Padasarthi ji. Wonderful. I didn't know he was 95 years old. We pray to Lord Shiva and Vishnu and to give him long life and to inspire us. You also said something about who manages the manager. I would like that to be the thought for everyone. You can have the best car. You can have a traffic that is really, you can have a highway with no cars, but if the driver is completely messed up, you will crash. So the driver is the manager here, the soul. And if you have to manage yourself before you manage others, so beautifully, everybody reflect on this. Who manages the manager? You can do this with your own self-study through Vedanta, like, Sri Ramaswamy ji said about books. Or you can get a good mentor, which is what Arjuna did. Arjuna got a mentor, Krishna, to say, Krishna, help me out. So let us be vulnerable and open to ask for help, so that when the manager inside us is managed, then everything else gets beautifully organized. So thank you once again, Ramaswamy ji. There are lots of very positive comments about your practical spirituality talk today, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you for supporting the Global Festival of Oneness today, and Hari Om.
Hari Om, thank you. Nama Paramashiva.
Hare Hare Shankara. So we will see you all again during I should set my time here. This is Saturday evening in India. Sunday morning is our next session of the Global Festival of Oneness. That is day 3. And we start with Prashnottara Malika. So Prashnottara Ratna Malika of Jagadguru Adi Shankara. And this is a special weekend session we have been having. And we will see you again, bright and early in India on Sunday morning at 7 a.m. So have a wonderful evening and day, and we look forward to seeing you again. Please tell your friends, the more managers are out there in the world, the more peaceful the world becomes. And please tell your friends and have them register for our morning and evening sessions. This is a fantastic celebration of life and works of Adi Shankara, which ultimately means all of us understanding how to live a content life. Like Ramaswamy ji said, we can achieve enlightenment with our Sanatana Dharma here and now. Hari Om. Thank you very much. Namaskar.